Hey up Internet, and welcome back to On the Sofa Live. If you're new, do subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can stay in the loop. Actually, I think I'm gonna do the intro again. Hey up Internet, and welcome back to On the Sofa Live. If you're new, do subscribe and third time's a charm. Hey up Internet, and welcome back to On the Sofa Live. If you're new, do subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. Okay, okay, here we go. Good. Yes, another edition of On the Sofa Live, number 12. And have we got a show for you? So let's jump straight in, shall we? This is hot off the press. This is from BBC News. Armed Forces Minister quits hours after Defence Secretary steps down over military spending plans. Armed Forces Minister Al Carnes resigns hours after Defence Secretary John Healey steps down over the government's military spending plans. In his resignation letter, Khan says, "We are asking our armed forces to operate in a more dangerous world on a budget written for a calmer one." Earlier, Healey told the Prime Minister, "The upcoming defence investment plan falls well short of what is required for defence and the country at this dangerous time." Security Minister Dan Jarvis has been appointed Defence Secretary following Healey's resignation, Downing Street confirms. So let's look. So let's see what Al Carnes had to say.
So there's a difficult decision going on about finances, then let's not shy away how difficult that decision is. I don't think we can say it's as simple as welfare or warfare, and I've been really clear that we should look at every model possible to find the money for defence and national security to make sure we're safe and secure here in the United Kingdom. We need to look into the defence investment plan. We need to make sure there are 3 key themes. I'd like to see more lessons from Ukraine, doctor writing as a critical principle. I'd like to see resilience, how we make this country more resilient against some of the pressures we're facing, and more integrated across the Army, Navy and Air Force. And I think if we get that right, particularly transformation, we can get it through and get it in the right place.
Do you fancy being Defence Secretary yourself?
No, so we just got to be really clear. And people get confused about ambition and service. My job is to serve the country in any way, shape or form where I can achieve the most effect.
Okay, that was Al Carnes. Here's some more footage.
The Defence Secretary John Healey has just resigned and accused the Prime Minister of being unable to find enough money to defend the UK against threats. There's been a big row going on in Westminster for months and months about how to find extra cash for the armed forces and where that cash should come from. The document setting all of that out has been delayed and delayed. It was supposed to be published in the coming days. John Healey said that he first saw it on Monday, but that the amount of money that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor were willing to give fell well short. He says he's unable to carry on as Defence Secretary without more money to give to the armed forces to be able to keep the country safe. This piles even more pressure on Sir Keir Starmer, who now has the really tricky task of finding someone willing to take on this job.
And of course, as we know, he has found someone to take on the job to replace Healey. Let's see what Badenoch had to say about this.
John Healey has done the honourable thing. Yesterday, I raised the issue of the Defence Investment Plan, and the Prime Minister exposed the fact that he was not going to put money into defence to the amount that was required. And I'm sure John Healey sat there listening to the Prime Minister tell me that he was increasing defence funding when he is not. He has done the honourable thing and resigned. I am glad that he agrees with me that we need to put more money into defence. But what is shocking is what he's written in his letter, where he says that the Prime Minister is making the country less safe and putting our troops at risk at a time of increasing threats.
Interesting. The article goes on. Huge respect for Khan's after resignation, says Shadow Defence Secretary. Political reaction to Al Khan's resignation from government is starting to trickle in. Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge says he has huge respect for Al Khan's and the manner of his resignation. Cartledge calls some of the criticism of the government legislation in Khan's letter a passionate and principled excroration. Meanwhile, Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice asked why Khan's had no part in preparing the government's defence investment plan despite being best qualified Labour MP. Double Resignation at Ministry of Defence, How We Got Here by Freya Scott Turner. Today has seen 2 ministerial posts vacated at the Ministry of Defence. Armed Forces Minister Al Khan's handed in his resignation a little while ago, following his boss John Healey, who stepped down as Defence Secretary earlier today. Here's how the day has played out so far. On Monday, Healey says he is presented with the government's defence investment plan in full for the first time. It lays out funding for the department over the next decade. 12:09. John Healey publicly announces his resignation as Defence Secretary, posting his resignation letter on X. He says that he has no other option but to resign, because funding falls well short of what is required for defence and the country at this dangerous time. 13:34. Al Khan's, the Armed Forces Minister, says there were issues facing the Defence Department that do not lend themselves to easy answers. He says the world is getting more dangerous, and his boss, John Healey, carried that weight with discipline and decency. Around 2 o'clock, a government source defends Starmer, telling the BBC, "This country is safer because of the decisions Keir Starmer has made, and we will continue to act in our national interest." Just after 6, Keir Starmer defends his funding plans in a letter to Healey, saying his plan will provide the resources our military needs to keep us safe, and that he was sorry to see him go. 18 minutes past 8, Al Khan's announces his resignation from government, writing in a letter to Starmer that it has become clear to me that the change I had pushed for is not going to come. And the UK cannot keep up with the changing character of conflicts. (921) I will always do what is necessary to protect our national security. This is from Chris Mason, political editor. The Prime Minister said, "My first duty is to keep the British people safe, and I always do what is necessary to protect our national security. I am pleased to appoint Dan Jarvis as Defence Secretary as we strengthen our armed forces and meet the growing threats facing our country. This Labour government is delivering the largest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. In a dangerous and volatile world, will give our armed forces the capabilities they need to defend Britain and keep our nation secure." I think this is going to put a lot of extra pressure on Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer was a dead man walking and has been for some time. And these resignations are going to put even more pressure on him. And quite honestly, I don't think he's going to last much longer. I think he needs to do the right thing and step down, and there needs to be a leadership election. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, next segment. Let's crack on. Let's move on. This next story is from USA Today News. Donald Trump ends tense Meet the Press interview, walks away from host. President Donald Trump called Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker crooked or stupid after she challenged his comments about California election security. And we've got some footage here.
Listen, we traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
Your elections in this country, we're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
I can't seem to see how we get back. Oh.
A country can never be great with a...
Oh. Ah. Okay, fine. Right. That was awkward. The article goes on. President Donald Trump abruptly ended an interview with NBC's Meet the Press and walked away after moderator Kristen Welker challenged him about unsubstantiated claims of cheating in the California primary elections. The dust-up between Trump and Welker arrived during a rain-heavy sit-down full of weather-related interruptions amid the president's pre-midterm visit to Wisconsin, a crucial swing state for both parties that he won in 2024. Excuse me. After Welker noted that Republicans are doing well in California following the June the 2nd primary contests, Trump said they're dropping fast because it's a rigged election, which led to a tense back and forth in the interview that aired on the 7th of June. Republicans have criticized the days-long ongoing counting process in California's primary races. Los Angeles mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt, a conservative, and Trump-endorsed Los Angeles mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt, a conservative, and Trump-endorsed gubernatorial candidates Steve Hilton are both in second place standings in their respective contests, but Democrat foes have gained ground. California has what's known as jungle primaries, in which all candidates, regardless of party, compete against each other, and the top two hopefuls advance to the general election. As Welker and Trump discussed the California races, including the vote tallying process, Welker noted that's how they count the votes in California. Trump responded asking, "Do you know why they're doing that? Because they're cheating on the election." Welker then asked Trump if he had evidence to support his claims, and the president responded that all I have to do is look, and I listen to the people. The NBC anchor again asked for evidence of election fraud and repeated that the typical days-long process is how they count the votes in California. Trump then questioned if it's appropriate to count votes 5 days after Election Day, and Welker said California officials are urging a quick vote count, but have pointed out that the process is slow. Trump told Welker that they're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked. Welker denied the accusations, and Trump said her questions played into their hands. And on X, we've got some footage here. This is from Call to Activism. Breaking. Trump just had his worst meltdown ever. Trump completely unravels when Kristen Welker challenged him on his California election claims. Instead of providing evidence, he called her crooked and stupid, attacked the press, and abruptly walks out in the middle of the interview. She did what every journalist should do every time Trump spews his unfounded bullshit. Thank you, Kristen.
Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know. I
I've sat in the
traveled
rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an hour.
Wisconsin. Don't see
Do you think it's
California.
appropriate that they have an election And 5 days later, they're nowhere close to picking a
State and
winner.
local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote
They're
in
crooked,
California.
just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
Really?
Let's
Well,
continue.
you play right into their hands. Then.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid.
Let's
you play
continue.
right into their hands with this rap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But Mr. President,
You know why I
you've
got
never
that?
presented
Because you have no
evidence.
credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
Your
about
elections
you
in
went
this
to
country,
court.
we're like a third world country.
But, sir,
Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and
But
Meet the Press is crooked,
Mr.
and so
President-
is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But Mr.
You're
President,
one-sided crooked networks. Right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've
I
sat in the
traveled
rain with
all.
you.
I know. I
I've sat in the
traveled
rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be
we
great
traveled
with a
all,
dishonest
listen,
press.
we
Come on, let's
traveled
go.
all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
God, he's such a whiny, nappy man, baby. Donald Trump is such a whiny bitch. I hate that man so much. He always does this. He hates any kind of scrutiny, especially if it comes from a woman. He can't stand being scrutinized especially by a woman. He hates women. He hates women especially. He hates any kind of scrutiny. But he hates it even more when it comes from a woman, because he's got a real problem with women. He's a misogynistic piece of shite. And she's right, of course. He's presented no evidence for vote rigging whatsoever. But he keeps, clinging on to this bullshit story that the elections are rigged. He's a complete dickhead. And the sooner he's out of office, the better, in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, moving on. Next segment. Let's see what's next. This next story is from Novara Media by Tom Midlane. Reform bans Essex libraries from promoting Pride and Black History Month. County Council says pause applies to all events, but critics are unconvinced. And there's a photo there. On the left, there's drag queen charcuterie, and on the right, Reform leader Nigel Farage. Reform-run Essex County Council has been accused of banning libraries from promoting Pride and Black History events. Workers were informed they were not allowed to advertise LGBTQ-themed events in a verbal briefing, the BBC reported. Chris Hossack, Reform Councillor for Residents and Community Services, said there was plenty of opportunity for campaigns and organisations that want to promote Women's Day and Black History to do that, and What I'm saying is we're not going to do that in our libraries, the outlet reported. A council spokesperson told Novara Media the pause in promotion applies to content on the council's marketing channels, such as social media and newsletters. This pause is applied to all groups and events being promoted, while the new administration reviews everything. They added that the pause did not apply to in-library promotional displays, but rights advocates interpreted the ban as a bid to suppress queer and minority voice. I'll start that sentence again. But rights advocates interpreted the ban as a bid to suppress queer and minority voices. A spokesperson for Essex Pride said the ban sends a negative message that LGBTQ+ people should be hidden away rather than acknowledged as part of society. This is very disturbing and alarming news, a spokesperson for Save Our Libraries Essex told the Yellow Adversity. Oh dear. I'll try that again. This is very disturbing and alarming news, a spokesperson for Save Our Libraries Essex told the Yellow Advertiser. What possible reason is there not to display Pride promotional material other than pure prejudice? That's a good question. That is a very good question. Colchester-based drag artist Charcuterie, a great name, who has hosted family-friendly drag storytime events at Colchester Library, called the move politically motivated. And I think she's correct. I think she's writing that. It must be politically motivated. There is a suggestion that the existence of an LGBTQ+ person is some way political, which I don't think it should be, she added. Hossack said in a statement, our libraries are spaces for everybody. With this in mind, we need to be careful not to highlight any particular groups or themes. So mindful of this, and unless the activity is specific to libraries, we have taken a decision to pause promotion of such events at libraries via the Council's public-facing communication channels. Earlier this year, Nigel Farage faced criticism after defending the party's Scottish leader Malcolm Offord for making a homophobic joke about the partner of late singer George Michael. Last year, the Reform leader was accused of vile homophobia after claiming that most stable relationships, the ones that last the longest, tend to be between men and women. Reform activists in Clacton were captured on camera referring to a pride flag as degenerate in a Channel 4 documentary in 2024. This is utterly despicable from Reform. Utterly despicable. There can only be one reason why they're doing this, because of prejudice. Why else are they pausing the funding for pride, for pride events and Black History events? And this does not bode well for a possible future Reform government. They're going to be prejudiced against LGBTQ+ people, people of colour, trans people. They're going to do away with the Equalities Act. So that's going to be, they're that's going to harm women as well when they are when they constantly claim that they're protecting women and girls. Their policies are actually going to harm them. So, in my opinion, this does not bode well for a possible reform government. We need to vote against these people. These people need to be exposed for the racists and bigots that they are. And we need to tactically vote against them in the next general election to keep them out of office. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. This next story is from the London Economic. Odds of Reform winning by-election significantly worse after Rob Kenyon's BBC QT appearance. The bookies took one look at Mr. Kenyon's shaky performance on Question Time and reviewed their prices for a Reform victory. I'll start that again, actually. This story is from the London Economic. Odds of Reform winning by-election significantly worse after Rob Kenyon's BBC QT appearance. The bookies took one look at Mr. Kenyon's shaky performance on Question Time and reviewed their prices for a Reform victory. There's a picture of Rob Kenyon there on BBC QT, Question Time. He actually wore a suit, shirt and tie for once. Nigel Farage may have been full of praise for Rob Kenyon following his debut on BBC Question Time last week, but it seems very few others agree with his assessment of the Reform candidate for the Makerfield by-election, and bookmakers have responded accordingly. Reform versus Labour, current betting odds on Makerfield by-election. Kenyon appeared on the panel last Thursday. It was a tough evening for the right-leaning councillor, who faced up to allegations of sexism and previous vulgar comments online. The studio audience also laughed when he suggested increasing the number of police officers was not his problem. The candidates from other political parties contesting this latest by-election gave a more polished account of themselves. Andy Burnham turned out for Labour and clashed several times with Mr. Kenyon. As a result, the sands appear to have shifted in favour of the Manchester mayor. At the start of the week, Reform were placed at shortened odds of 5-2, roughly translating to a 28% chance of winning. However, the likes of Betfred, William Hill and MGM Bet all saw the numbers drift to 4-1 over the last 72 hours, implying a 20% chance of a Reform victory. And that's the thing. It's not just the polls that people should be paying attention to. It's the odds that are given by the bookies as well, because they or they always seem to be quite accurate in their predictions. If the bookies are predicting that Andy Burnham is going to win, they're most likely going to be right. And I agree. I think it's going to be Andy Burnham. I think Andy Burnham is going to win the Makerfield by-election. It'll probably be close, but I think Andy Burnham will win it. Burnham benefits from question time debate. This is a significant change, and the one that indicates that Burnham is now I'll start that again. Burnham benefits from question time debate. This is significant change, and one that indicates Andy Burnham is now in the box seat, heading into crucial vote on Thursday, the 18th of June. New polling data out from Makerfield also shows a surge in support for the former cabinet minister, opening up a 10 percentage point lead over Reform. It's understood that Reform are reticent to blame their inexperienced candidate for their fading fortunes, with many inside the party lamenting the rise of Restore Britain instead. Rupert Lowe's further right organisation is polling around 8% in the constituency, costing Reform a vital portion of votes. And this is another good point. Restore are going to split the far right vote in Makerfield, taking valuable votes away from Reform. And they're also going to ruin their Reform's chances in Makerfield, paving the way for Andy Burnham to win. And here we have a tweet from Politics UK. This is the second Makerfield by-election poll. Labour on 49%, Reform 39%, Restore on 8%, the Greens on 2%, Lib Dems on 1%, Conservative on 1%, Other 1%. That's via Survation, 518 sample. It's only 518. That's not a very big sample, but still, it doesn't look good for Reform, and it certainly doesn't look good for the Green Party either. It's looking like the Labour Party are going to win at the moment, but we'll see. The by-election is next week. Excuse me. Kenyon's campaign has been dogged by scandal, and last week Carol Vorderman sent an open letter to the women of Makerfield imploring them not to vote for the person who made crass remarks about her on social media before he was elected into local government. Within 11 days to go until the polls open, less than that now, Reform face an uphill battle to thwart Burnham's attempts to return as an MP. And I covered that story about Robert Kenyon's vile remarks last week, and you can see the segment on my channel. So do watch it to see for yourselves. And in my opinion, he always comes across as thick as pig shit. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, let's move on. Right. This story is from the Daily Britain. Reforms Wakefield Council cut school uniform support for 30,000 children 3 weeks after taking power. This article is by Jordan Scott. Reform's newly elected Wakefield Council has voted to slash its school uniform support fund by £1.3 million, just 3 weeks after taking power, scrapping a universal free voucher scheme that benefited all 30,000 school children in the district, regardless of family income, and replacing it with a targeted means-tested payment of £30 for children eligible for free school meals and families in financial hardship. The average cost of a school uniform in England is £337 per child per year. The previous Labour-run council operated a £2 million scheme providing free uniform vouchers to every school child across Wakefield regardless of household income. Reform has replaced it with a programme estimated to cost £700,000, a saving of £1.3 million. Cabinet member for Children and Young People Matthew Caton described the decision as common sense and what any responsible council should be doing. Yvette Cooper, Foreign Secretary and MP for Wakefield constituency, responded directly. After only 3 weeks in power, Wakefield's new reform-led council was cutting Labour's local school uniform vouchers, cancelling them for more than 30,000 children across the district. The council was helping all families with the cost of living, but now, thanks to reform, thousands of working families will lose out. What reform said and what it means in practice. Clacton's defence of the cuts was framed in the language of fiscal responsibility and targeted support. The universal giveaway we inherited from the previous administration was never the best use of public money. It meant residents without school-aged children who might also be struggling could be subsidising better-off parents. We are going to focus support on those who need it most. The £1.3 million saved, he said, would be invested in other essential local services to improve the lives of our residents. The means testing logic is not without internal coherence. The argument that universal benefits, by definition, include people who do not need them is a long-standing position across the political spectrum. But the specific application in Wakefield raises questions the council's statement does not address. The uniform vouchers went to all families with school-aged children, regardless of income. The families whose children now lose support are not the wealthy. They are working families who are above the free school meals threshold, which in England is set at net annual household earnings of £7,400 for most families, rising to £16,900 for universal credit claimants. A family earning £25,000 a year does not qualify for free school meals. They are also not wealthy. A constituency with Wakefield's specific economic profile, £337 per child per year school uniform, is a real cost. This is the third significant community funding cut by Reform Council to generate major coverage in recent weeks. As we reported in our Durham Pride piece, Reform's Durham Council Deputy Leader Darren Grimes cut Durham Pride's £2,500 council funding weeks after taking power, calling it the professional offence industry. Trade unions raised £15,000 to replace it. As we reported in our Reform First Year in Local Government piece, Reform councils have also raised council tax despite promising to cut it, citing service pressure, including home-to-school transport and SEND deficits. The Wakefield cut is different in scale and who is affected. School uniform support for 30,000 children across a district is not a small cultural programme. It is a measure that directly reduces the financial burden on families at the start of every school year, removing it 3 weeks after taking power, before any meaningful assessment of the district's needs, financial position, or the impact of the change follows the same template as Durham Pride: cut first, justify with fiscal responsibility language, move on. This is the thing. And this is the thing. This is the MO of reform. Cut first, ask questions later. And this is not going to. And I strongly believe that the previous Labour administration in Wakefield had the right idea. I think it's the only fair way of doing things. That way, if any family falls on hard times, they can still get uniforms for their children. But this way of doing the reform way of doing things is unfair in my opinion. It penalises working people who, despite having perhaps 2 jobs in the family, despite having both parents working, they may not be able to afford school uniforms. And Reform say they support and Reform keep telling us that they're for working people. But these cuts seem to say the opposite. The opposite seems to be true. And this does not bode well, in my opinion, for a possible Reform government. Reform want to bring in their own version of Doge, which of course has been a disaster in the United States. And I think it will be a disaster in this country as well. It will be austerity on steroids. It will be a complete disaster for the United Kingdom if Reform get in. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. This story is from New... Start again. This story is from NN Journal. New council chairman stands down after NN Journal investigation. Exclusive. Northamptonshire Council Chairman Maurice Eglin has announced his resignation today after our investigation uncovers offensive historic tweets. Not another one. Not another Reform councillor discovered to have historic tweets. For goodness sake. It just keeps happening again and again. What is going on? It's ridiculous. And there's a photo of Councillor Maurice Eglin in the centre with leader Martin Griffiths and Council Chief Executive Adele Wiley on the day he was appointed as chairman. The Reform UK chairman of Northamptonshire Council has today stood down in response to an NN Journal investigation into his social media activity. Councillor Maurice Eglin, who was appointed as chairman last month, has resigned this morning, ahead of our investigation being published, saying he had in the past been guilty of being a keyboard warrior. He has also apologised for his posts and said the language he used was wrong. At least he admitted he was wrong and has apologised, so that's something, I suppose. Credit where it's due. In the past, Reform councillors or candidates who have been discovered to have racist or bigoted posts have refused to apologise. And have refused to admit that they were wrong. But at least he has apologised, so at least that's something. We had uncovered a series of offensive tweets which include Islamophobia, support for far-right groups, and anti-trans views. The tweets predate his election as a councillor last May and are from an account that he shut down shortly before being elected. He must have thought that these tweets wouldn't have been discovered. But the thing is, once he's on the internet forever. In one of several anti-Muslim tweets, he says in June 2024, so this is recent then, this isn't like decades ago, years ago, this is only last year. He said, "How about fuck Islam, the hateful, evil religion that would kill my kind?" In another, he shares an image depicting a Muslim figure standing on top of a tower of skulls opposite a Christian figure stood on top of a pile of books. He also reposted a tweet from far-right Britain First leader Paul Golding, and in another response to long-standing politician George Galloway, he defends Tommy Robinson, calling Galloway a racist hater, and says that convicted criminal Robinson is standing up for British GB nationals. In August 2024, he tweeted, "Please don't tarnish all gays." Sorry, I'll start that again. In August 2024, he tweeted, "Please don't tarnish all gay guys with the same brush, as we don't all agree with LGBTQ rights. We hate it. In August 2024, he tweeted, "Please don't tarnish all gay guys with the same brush, as we don't all agree with LGBTQ rights. We hate where it has gone and is going. We believe in LGB without the TQ and common sense. So it's a turf then, basically. We put the offensive material to Councillor Egling, along with the leader of the council, Martin Griffiths, yesterday, and today he quit his civic role. In an issued statement, the former soldier said, "I have today resigned as chairman of Northamptonshire Council with immediate effect. This follows the emergence of social media posts I shared before I was elected as a councillor and before I joined Reform UK. I have served kin and country and over the years developed some very strong views about the state of our nation. Looking back, I deeply regret some of the comments and content I shared online during that period. At the time, I was often guilty of being a keyboard warrior and posting things I would not post today. My time as a councillor has taught me to think more critically before reacting, be more objective and look at the detail first. Since becoming an elected member, I have had the privilege of working with and for people from all walks of life, backgrounds, faiths and beliefs. Those experiences have broadened my perspective and challenged some of my assumptions. The language used in some of those posts was wrong and does not reflect the person I strive to be today. I would like to offer my sincere and unreserved apologies to anyone who has been hurt by those posts. If I could take them back, I would. For some reason, and in order to protect the office of chairman, I have taken the decision. So I'll start that again. For that reason, and in order to protect the office of chairman, I have taken the decision to step down from the role with immediate effect. Serving as chairman has been a tremendous honour, and I remain committed to serving the residents of Northamptonshire as a councillor. He told NN Journal there is a fuller picture of who he is and referenced significant personal trauma, which he says had an impact on his mental health. Councillor Egling represents Baron Seagrave and Burton Latimer ward and will remain as a councillor. Councillor Andy Sims is the current deputy chairman and is expected to step into the role. There's a picture of Councillor Griffiths there. The council's leader, Councillor Martin Griffiths, said, "Councillor Maurice Egling has informed the council that he has resigned as chairman of Northamptonshire Council with immediate effect. This decision follows the emergence of social media posts made before the Councillor Egling was elected to public office. While these comments predate his time as a councillor, the language used does not reflect the standards expected of those holding senior civic positions. Following discussions with Councillor Egling, it was agreed that stepping aside from the chairmanship was the right course of action to protect the integrity of the role and maintain public confidence in the council and office of chairman. Northamptonshire is home to people from many different backgrounds, faiths and communities. As an administration, we are committed to building positive relationships across all parts of our community and ensuring that every resident feels respected and represented. Our focus remains on serving all residents of Northamptonshire fairly, respectively, and without prejudice. We will continue working constructively with community groups, faith organisations and local residents to build a stronger and more united North Northamptonshire. That's very interesting, isn't it? At least he apologised and admitted that what he said in the past was wrong. And I think he has made the right decision to step down as chairman. But this is part of a pattern. There's something very wrong, in my opinion, with Reform's vetting process. It makes me wonder if they even have a vetting process, because because a better vetting process would have uncovered these historic tweets from only a year ago, and maybe he wouldn't have been appointed as chairman in the first place. And this is a pattern. This isn't the first time this has happened, as I've talked about in previous videos. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. This story is from the Canary. Update: Salma Yaqub was victim of a Birmingham arson attack. Actually, I'll start that again. This story is from the Canary. Update: Salma Yaqub was victim of Birmingham arson attack by Squawk Box. Green activist and former Respect Party parliamentary candidate Salma Yaqub was the target of the arson attack in Birmingham that Squawk Box reported earlier today, 5th of June 2026. The local Green Party has issued a statement of solidarity with Yaqub and her family. Birmingham Green Party expressed solidarity with the Yaqub family after the shocking arson attack on a car outside their family home. Many of our councillors, activists and supporters know members of the family well and admire their commitment to equality, justice and peace. The fact that nobody was injured is down to quick thinking by family members who were able to stop the fire spreading. This extremely dangerous act was caught on CCTV, and we hope that West Midlands Police catch the perpetrators quickly before they are able to commit any further acts of violence. I haven't heard anything about this on mainstream media press, or mainstream media news programs. This is the first I've heard about this. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the mainstream media hasn't reported this. Birmingham attack met with media indifference. Masked attackers smashed the windows of Yaqub's car during the night and poured petrol over it before setting it alight. Quick action by family members stopped the blaze spreading to their home until firefighters arrived to extinguish it fully. Like most Islamophobic and right-wing attacks, the arson has been largely ignored by UK mainstream media. And there are two comments. Bazza says, two-tier capitalist UK media. Graham Bunn said, this is a terrible and frightening attack at the home of Selma Yaqub. I remember Selma from the Stop War days. Selma is a graceful and dignified woman. Her compassion and strength were an inspiration. I hope her family are safe and the people who did this are brought to justice. Yes, exactly. I agree. I agree with that statement, and I also offer my solidarity to Selma and her family. And I too hope that the perpetrators are prosecuted with the full force of the law. And I think it's disgusting that the mainstream media has been indifferent about this, that they've ignored this. It's disgusting. They have a right-wing bias, and which is why independent media needs to be supported. And I really hope that more independent media outlets report this news story, because people need to know about this. They need to hear stories like this. They need to know what's really going on. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, just two more stories, and we'll call it a night. Farouk tweeted this: Ian Hislop repeatedly slams Michael Gove on Have I Got News for You? I mean, you were sacked and then dismissed. You almost came back. I mean, there are cockroaches I know who are in we of your ability. Cameron said, you have one overriding quality, that is disloyalty. I prefer to be talking about levelling up. Can I just say at this point, I've always liked experts. A turbulent week. What we've seen is a large number of cabinet members stabbing each other in the back in the hope of becoming leader, Michael. In the old days, you used to get into trouble with emails, didn't you, Michael? Let's have a look at the clip here.
An unmemorable double humiliation.
You did stop borrowing. I mean, you were sacked and then dismissed, and then you always came back. I mean, they're cockroaches I know who were in awe of your ability. And I preferred Cameron's definition. He said you had one overriding quality. Have I got this right? Which was disloyalty.
I think I have many other good qualities as well.
Yeah, I can't think of any, but that's a good one. No, I preferred you talking about levelling up. Can I just say at this point that I've always liked experts.
I think
Turbulent week. I think what we've seen is a large number of members of the cabinet stabbing each other in the back in the hope of becoming leader. Michael.
This is an unprecedented departure from the high standards that have been set by previous governments.
Yes. I mean, how does it feel? You're in cabinet, you're being polite, you're pretending to support them, then you go out, you stab them in the back. How do you feel?
Well, it obviously depends on whose back you're stabbing. In some cases, it's a solemn duty.
Yeah.
In other cases, it's a positive pleasure.
Right. Yeah.
This is amazing.
You tried to be leader a couple of times, didn't you?
Twice.
Twice. How did that go?
I came third both times, which is an unmemorable double humiliation.
You did stop Boris being leader once.
I did, yes, but as we all, I think, subsequently know, that was only a temporary alleviation.
Yeah, but it was your one good deed in this life.
Oh my God.
In the old days, you used to get into trouble with emails, though, didn't you, Michael?
Never.
When you were in the Department of Education, there was a bit of a problem about you handing them over, wasn't there?
Oh, no, I was always very happy to hand them over.
You just couldn't find them.
Some of them went missing, yes.
Just to say nothing changes.
I wouldn't know.
This is amazing. You know so much until you don't know anything. Wow.
It's not as good as this, though.
I know what's coming.
You've interviewed him, haven't you, Mike?
I have, yes, in 2017.
Yeah.
It was quite a sympathetic interview, wasn't it?
I prefer to think of it as balanced.
Yeah, sycophantic drivel was the phrase I was looking for.
Penile implant specialist leading the antivirus response is ridiculous. But like allowing an office interior design firm to supply PPE during the pandemic. Michael, any comment on that?
I think that as one looks back, the blessed sponge of amnesia wipes the slate of memory clean.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really forgotten that, Michael. You're in the House of Lords now, sitting alongside other luminaries like Baroness Moan. That's the reaction I was looking for.
You're just pronouncing her name.
Yes.
That applause must be a welcome sound.
What is it? I've never heard it.
I mean, you were...
But at least he took the drubbing in good grace. Bless him. Let's read some of the comments. Call to Activism said this. Oh, no, that's something else. Let's read some of the comments. Brexit Bin said, I don't want people like Gove insulted. I want them in jail for all the harm they've caused, but I'll settle for never having to see them again on TV. Nathan Sterling says, ha 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 ha, he's a good sport. Fuck the BBC for even platforming this cunt. Dr. Martin said, let us not forget the billions of PPE corruption. Yeah, exactly. Shoko Leibniz said, another example of the shambolic farce of the BBC's political media infotainment freak show. Gove should be nowhere near our TV screens. Instead, he plays along with Hislop's public school ribbing like a good sport. Fuck this. Andy Smith said, fucking hate Gove. Wish more people would call him out, or he just wasn't given any airtime whatsoever. Absolute weasel. Jake Thistle said, Gove seems to think that his being a lying, corrupt, backstabbing politician is funny. I don't. No, neither do I. but it is funny seeing him getting a drubbing. Truth Seeker said, Gove valiantly laughs off being party to fraud that cost British taxpayers billions. Where's the investigation? Yeah, good question. Where is the investigation? Robt Fenwick Elliott. Hislop used to be mildly funny. He's now just a blob of vitriol. I think he's still funny. But but what is funny? That's subjective, isn't it? Really. An honest mouthful. Gove is responsible for billions being lost in PPE scams. He should be in prison. Where is my pitchfork? Says Gove is still on there laughing with the old boys. What sport? We're all pals here. When he's a fascist who wrecked the education system and should be in prison. Raga tweeted this. Tory voters need to watch the episode and the human slime's reaction to a question about PPE contracts. Gove smirked, knowing they'd defrauded the public purse of billions. An odious man with similar defenders. Rockaway, #defend the BBC, said Paul Merton was near silent throughout the whole episode. He wasn't happy being next to Gove. Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't think I'd be happy sitting next to him either. Luddite, ex-NHS, #pro-choice, said, well done, Ian Hislop. To be fair to loathsome Gove, he took this well and remained good-humoured, but honestly, he wrecked education, he was instrumental in Brexit, and I think we get the politicians we deserve. Alan R. Taylor said, Gove is the Israeli lobby go-to boy for any article to be written in the press defending Israel. They can always rely more him. Most shameful one was him calling for IDF to be given Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, exactly. Alan said, well, they've done a good job of bringing up his past. There's nothing funny about this twat acted or what he did to the country. Stephen H. said this. I noted when Hislop said, can I just say this point? I've always liked experts. That Gove just laughed. I loathe that man. And Cerezo said, Gove is one of this people. You see him and you want to vomit. What he did to education in England should be in the history books, and not for being good. Sickening seeing him, and then opens his mouth and is disgusting. The harm he has done to this country because he didn't want experts. Exactly. And there are many responses of a similar nature. And I personally agree with most of those comments. I've always thought that Michael Gove is an odious little toad. But let me know what you think of him in the comments. Okay. There's something else I want to share with you guys. No, hang on. I think that's it from X anyway. Okay, moving on then. our final story tonight. This story is from BBC News. Trump booed in New York as he becomes first US president to attend NBA Finals. And we've got some footage. Oh my days. That is really bad. They sound really, really angry. But I don't blame them.
What did you think of the reception you got from the Knicks fans tonight? I thought great. I mean, I thought it was amazing, actually. You mean when they had the camera on me? I thought it was very good, yeah.
He's delusional if he thought the reception he got was very good. But then he's always been delusional, let's face it.
It was certainly amazing. It was
amazing.
I think mostly cheers. It was.
Oh my God.
Loud and it was very.
He's the Lulu. Trump is the Lulu. He is the Lulu. He's delusional if he thought that they were mostly cheering him. Let's watch that again. Those are not cheers. That's anger. That is pure, unmitigated anger. Those are boos. Those are really angry boos. If he thought he was being cheered, he's more delusional than I thought. What an idiot. Donald Trump has been booed at a basketball match in New York as he became the first sitting US president to attend the NBA Finals. The catcalls came after frustrated ticket holders waited for hours in queues that stretched more than 2 blocks outside Madison Square Garden on Monday due to the intense security restrictions that came with the US president's appearance. The New York Knicks lost 111 to 115 to the San Antonio Spurs, and of course, Donald Trump knows all about Spurs, in Game 3 of the best-of-7 NBA Finals, cutting the Knicks' lead in the series 2-1. After the game, Trump told reporters, "It was, I think, mostly cheers. It was loud, and it was very enthusiastic." Oh my God. Oh my God. He's the Lulu. Gordon Bennett. Booing broke out on Monday evening when a camera showed Trump on large screens in the arena, saluting as a singer performed the national anthem. The president attended with his granddaughter Kai Trump and Knicks owner James Dolan, along with members of his administration that included Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, EPA Administration Lee Zeldin, and many envoy and special envoy Steve Witkoff. The Republican president, who was born in the New York City borough of Queens, had had a difficult relationship with his heavily Democratic hometown. Trump, who had been at his New Jersey golf club earlier in the day, flew to downtown Manhattan by taking the Marine One helicopter. He then traveled by motorcade to the venue. Trump's arrival meant the streets around Madison Square Garden were shut down to foot and vehicle traffic. Thousands of New York Police Department officers and hundreds of Secret Service officers were deployed. Metal barriers were put up at each block as sports fans faced an airport-style gauntlet of security. For bars in the area showing the final game, this would normally be a lucrative night, but the barriers stopped foot traffic and left many pubs empty. So many of the pubs in the area lost money because of the president. I bet he didn't think about that, did he? Because there's a narcissist who only thinks about himself. What an arsehole. What a fucking dickhead. Disgruntled Knicks fans, as well as regular commuters, struggled to navigate the celebrations. One New Yorker told the BBC the high security was killing the vibe of the Knicks. Yeah, I bet it was, yeah. This season has represented a stunning reversal of fortune for the Knicks, appearing in their first finals since 1999, after decades as one of the worst teams in the league. Celebrities including Tracy Morgan, Tina Fey, Christine Taylor, Ben Stiller, Timothy Chalamet filled courtside seats. New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani was there. Manhattan was crowded with fans of the Knicks, decked out in orange and blue, many watching the game in the streets and at watch parties. The streets around popular Bryant Park were filled as fans gathered at a community watch party after one outside Madison Square Garden, where the game is happening, was cancelled due to Trump's appearance. People ran up and down the streets near Bryant Park, celebrating and cheering every time the Knicks scored a point. As the game started, some fans could be seen climbing scaffolding attached to buildings. Others in the busy streets crowded around a laptop to watch the game. One 44-year-old fan who watched the game at Bryant Park said he was 17 years old the last time the Knicks were in the finals, and like this year, they played the San Antonio Spurs. He said the disruption caused by Trump's visit was very annoying. But not everyone was angry at Trump. Knicks fan Anthony Pulley, 43, told AFP News Agency that he found the disruption annoying, but he appreciated Trump coming to the game. I think it really put a damper on all the watch parties, he said, but it's pretty cool he wants to show up and be a part of it. But I think that guy was probably in the minority, to be honest. From the Empire State Building to One World Trade Center, skyscrapers lit up orange and blue, the Knicks team colors. On the last two game nights, throngs of supporters in Knicks gear took over the streets near the arena, even though their team was playing at their opponent's arena in Texas, leading to dozens of arrests as fans climbed lampposts, jumped onto food carts, and blocked traffic. Many fans weren't able to afford tickets to the first series home game, with the cheapest online resale tickets going for more than $10,000. Jesus Christ. That's daylight robbery. That's £7,500. Fucking hell. And going for up to more than $100,000. Fuck me. Who has money to spend? Who has that much money to spend on tickets? Jesus Christ. That's the way life goes, Trump said on Friday when asked about the extreme prices. Well, for fuck's sake, he's so out of touch. Of course, he can say that because it's not going to affect him one iota. He's not affected by the cost of living crisis. What a cunt. Fuck me. Jesus Christ. It's sort of semi-free to watch on television. Jesus wept. Mayor Mandani told reporters he paid nearly $1,000 for his ticket to the game. And there's some coverage here as well.
I'm currently walking down the street in Midtown Manhattan, where 3 hours before a Knicks game tip-off, especially in the finals, it would usually be extremely crowded here. But today it's basically deserted behind me as police and Secret Service have shut down this entire section of the city, including a 10-block radius that's normally heavily trafficked by people surrounding Madison Square Garden. This is because obviously President Donald Trump is attending tonight's game. This is tightening security in the whole city, but especially in this area where there's barriers blocking basically every street. My bag had to be searched and I had to be patted down even to get onto this block. And I'm not even on the streets that are directly next to Madison Square Garden. There are police cars everywhere. Pedestrians are being stopped and searched. People are anticipating a very exciting night for the Knicks, who are currently on a winning streak. They've just won 2 games out of a 7-game series, best of 7-game series, finals, NBA championships. It's the first time since 1999 that they've been in the final, and people are excited. It's unusually quiet around here because of the tightening security today.
So there you have it. Donald Trump booed at the Knicks game, and I think deservedly so. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, that ends the show. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. And if you're new, do describe. Start that again. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. And do subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. Okay, bye for now.